And yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Hey, Liz. I hear that there's some kind of change that you want to make. Could you tell me a little bit about what this change is?
Yeah, so it's I've been made aware that there's something that I really enjoy doing that I really feel called to do that I cannot find time for.
Okay. Um, can you be specific?
Sure. So it's actually two areas that I have been like to-dos on my daily list, but they don't have a time and a place and a structure for, so they don't happen. One is writing, specifically writing devotions, because that is something that I know that this, whether they get published in a book form or in blog form, I need to write them and publish them. And then the other one is just practicing 15 minutes of worship songs, of singing worship songs, because I recently joined our worship team.
Okay, great. So it sounds like what you're saying is that, you've got these specific goals, and the issue right now is that you just aren't finding time for those things in your schedule. Do you feel like they're valuable? You feel like they're important, but you're just not making them fit in the schedule. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. Yeah.
Okay. So, would you describe your current schedule as being uh, are you happy with it? Are you happy with your regular schedule right now?
Yeah, I
Except,
tend to front load my days. That's when I get the most done, especially with mental tasks. Like, well, I guess these are
Mhm.
kind of half and half. The writing is definitely a mental task, so that should need to happen in the morning. Um, my kids were gone for a week at summer camp, and I thought that they were the problem. And I was like, oh, great, I'll get so much writing done. And so I realized my kids are not the problem. I am the problem. And so I need to come up with the way. And I've heard of these things called like you work together, but you're just online and you kind of have this accountability. And I'm like wondering, should I pursue that as a way and just say, whatever they're working on, maybe they're working on their doctoral thesis or whatever,
Mhm.
and you don't talk to them, you just have like your camera on and you're working. Isn't that weird that this is the kind of area that like this is how we live?
It's interesting. It's interesting, but it also speaks to that, isn't it normal? It's normal for us to struggle with wanting to do certain things and being able to do them and needing support to do them. So I think I'd say it's a great thing that that you're thoughtful about these changes, and it's another great thing that you've already kind of researched some possible ways that you could kind of make these changes, and you're already working on kind of even having support from. So those are all really great things. um, so I want to ask you, maybe, what's going to be the negative impact if you don't do these things that you think are important, that you want to do? What's the negative aspect of not getting them done?
Yeah, so I believe in being over prepared for any type of. I know worship leading is not a performance, but I have not figured out another word for it, because it's just like, imagine being in a play or something and not having your lines learned backwards and forwards. That just goes against everything in me. So I want to know these songs backwards and forwards. I want to know where the harmonies are best and all of that. And then so that when I'm on stage, I can just worship and let others worship. That's the whole thing. And I know that my not being prepared would be detrimental to others being able to worship, and that thought terrifies me.
Okay. Okay, so I just want to say, as somebody who's led worship, and a praise band, totally get those feelings. You want to be we want to do worship well. So those are, again, good goals. Um, so that's one aspect, the writing aspect. What's going to happen if you don't do this writing?
I know that when I am writing and I am putting something out on my blog or whatever, that I just feel like I'm in the sweet spot where God wants me, and that it's kind of it's a kind of a slap in his face to just be like, yeah, I know you want me to be doing this, but I'm not going to. It's just.
Mhm. So we've kind of framed these things in some negative lights. What about the positives? What are some of the really great things that are going to happen if you can get these goals done?
Like with writing, when I hear from people that, wow, they say things like, I've felt this way, but it was so nice that someone put it into words for me. I know that helps people feel seen and loved and heard, and then yeah, loved by God, and like, that's awesome to me. So I know that there is a direct enemy for why who wouldn't want me to connect with people through words like that. And so that actually fortifies me. It's like if I recognize and acknowledge the opposition.
Great. So like doing these things well is going to be a blessing. You're going to be receiving you're going to get your cup filled, because you're doing these things that matter and they fill your cup emotionally. And you're going to be making an impact on the kingdom, which is something you value. So it sounds like you've got a good understanding of the positives and negatives, and some ideas for what you can do. So what's something that you can do today? What's one thing that you can do today to put you towards one of these goals?
That's really good. Yeah.
And then just real quick before you answer that, when you get done answering, then we'll go ahead and give Josh some feedback.
Okay. Yeah. So with regard to writing, I would like to look up the name of that, either accountability, or actually I have my nephew moving in very soon, and he's an adult, and he would be totally on board with like, this is going to be a work session, and just then putting them on the calendar, not with a bubble to check off, but a time.
Makes great sense. And just, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So breaking these things into little pieces, I think, is a great plan for success and getting somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. And then with the music, just getting all the songs that I'm scheduled for all in one place. That makes it easy to open a file and just listen to all of them with the lyrics. And so that I can enlist, if that's just feeling like too much, I can enlist the help of my 12-year-old to help me make a file.
I think those are great easy steps, and I'll say a prayer for you today that you can achieve those things.
Thanks, Josh.
Awesome. And time. All right, good deal. So any strength of Josh as a interviewer?
I would say for me is that whenever he had something that could be construed in any way as a negative, he immediately came back with a positive. Like when Liz was saying about that she had looked into the idea, a couple things she had looked into and the accountability, but she was kind of like, why would, what has our world come to, which is kind of a negative. He came in with, what, you have already looked at all these things. You've already done this. So he turned it into a positive. And then he did it again at the end where she was saying something and he came in and he just turned it around to a positive. And I mean, that is a gift.
Yeah. So that could technically be a reframe where you take the same information and you just cast it as something else. Also a good example of an affirmation. So she's saying, isn't it weird that we need this as a human being? And he's saying, isn't it great that you care and that, you have an interest in this and that this is important to you? Was really I heard a lot of affirmation in that particular response that he made.
I did too. I thought that was genius and so good because it
Yeah.
removed the value judgment that I was quick to put on it. I was gonna like beat myself up for even needing something like that. And he's like, isn't it great that it's normal that you see a lot of people? Otherwise, there wouldn't be these services.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So I would lean almost more towards a reframe than even an affirmation, though it was affirming. Any other strengths?
Well, the basic tools were there, the open-ended, but I like the tell me about what is the downside if you're not prepared, and then flipping that to the positive. But essentially those were getting at the importance, right? And I think, why reminding Liz why that was important to her is a great place to land.
Yeah.
Because it helps the motivation relative to all the distractions, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Those questions were important to me because I wanted to understand her. I didn't know if I could really assist her if I couldn't understand her.
Mm-hmm.
I was afraid I was taking too long to get to the meat of it because I needed to explore. It was what I felt.
Mm-hmm. No, I think those were classic MI questions. And so asking about the loss that you would get if you don't do this change is a great question. I think, when I heard that, I was like, ding, 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 right on. Right on. And then you follow it up with the opposite side of it. So what are the benefits of doing it as well? So you had two questions in a row that really focused on the why and the motivation of it. How important is this to you? Cool. Any final strengths? I thought there was a good summary. It kind of really kind of wrapped up. Okay, so this is sort of where I heard you. I'm curious, Liz, how did that feel like it captured where you were at?
Yeah, I thought he did a good job of taking it from like, well, I've been kind of thinking about doing it, and it feels more, more like a burden to at the end, I feel buoyant, like the action steps that he led me through feel very attainable. I think breaking down what today I think is a great thing. Like if you're gonna write a book of devotions, okay.
That's a whale, right? That's the eating a whale.
Right. Yeah. That's a whole elephant. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that was very good question as well. All right. Any areas for improvement? Anything that Josh could look at as an area for improvement?
You did great.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm trying to think of something to make them. I don't know what I'd change.
I have one suggestion. So you asked a question about the schedule and kind of what her schedule looks like now, which is totally fine. People do that in therapy all the time. As a little bit of a hint of a potential solution within it, and it focused on the barriers, or it may have brought up more talk about the barriers. And we're trying to, within MI,
sustained talk.
Yeah, we might get sustained talk coming out of that. That's why I felt like when you asked the question about what do you lose or what's the negative outcome of not making these changes, it was like, boom, right in the pocket on that one.
I felt like when I asked the negative aspect, it just became really important to me that I did follow up with a positive. What are the positives? Because of the sustain versus change talk, that, and I think probably having sustain talk first and change talk second, the negatives first, positive second, seems a better arrangement.
But I would say that question elicited change talk, because you asked what are the negative outcomes of not doing the change, and so it was change talk so both questions really got at change talk.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But you're right. The schedule question, at first I was like, oh, is he going to help me find pockets of time on my schedule to do this? And I was getting a little nervous, but he backed off from that really fast. I thought that, yeah.
Again,
Maybe
I think for me it was just trying to say, you know, again, maybe this is not good. Maybe it elicits sustained talk, but I wanted to have some sense of where you're at. You know, like you want this change, but you're where you are today, and there's reasons why you are where you are today, and maybe they're good. I mean, it's not like we're talking about, you know, being addicted to crack, you know, which has very few upsides. You know, that you've got to
Speak for yourself, buddy.
Very few, I said. I didn't say there weren't any. You know, that I don't want to push her away from, you know, maybe she needs to sustain, you know, I don't know.
Yeah. Yes. Right. So in a neutrality sense too, right? So you're giving voice to both sides of the ambivalence and not picking a horse in that.
Yeah.
So
And
I
she's
think
got good reasons for being where she is. We all do usually.
yeah, that's a very good motivation behind that. Cool. Well, we are a bit after our time, so I appreciate you guys hanging on for an extra few minutes. Thank you guys a lot. It was encouraging, and I'm going to send you guys. I have to go to a sober living facility right after this, but later today I'll send you guys some individual feedback from when I popped in on the rooms and observed what was going on. But good work. Thanks, guys. This was
Thank
fun.
you. Thanks, Jason.